welcome everybody to the joint meeting for the Rules and Open Government Committee and Committee of the Whole. And if we can have a roll call, please.
Arenas?
Here.
Cohen?
Here.
Davis?
Here.
Corrales? Jones?
Present.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're going to start out with the agenda for May 4th. And if we can go to start out with pages 4 and 5. Six and 7. And everyone can see that 3.6 has to be heard at 6 p.m. Pages 8 and 9. On item 3.7, I want to ask Councilmember Cohen, you were one of the signers to this particular memo.
Yeah.
Based on a lot of the new information we've received, particularly around the state enacting a new law, would your preference and the preference of your co-signers be to just remove this item as opposed to defer it?
No, there's still some elements that we believe that would make our ordinance a little bit stronger and provide a little more protection. I believe it's okay to defer it. I was curious as to why the recommendation, given that looks like May 11th is a pretty substantial meeting.
Okay, so after we're done with the agenda, when we bring it back to the committee, you can ask that question.
Oh, okay.
All right.
Same thing with 3.8.
Yes. Okay, so 8, 9, 10, and 11. And there is an ad sheet as well. Going to go to the public. And we have 2 speakers. Lynn, you're first up. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, I do not want to speak at this time. I'm sorry.
No worries.
Thank you.
Blair. Go ahead, Blair.
Yeah, hi, thank you. Blair Beekman here. In the last week of April, so things are a bit softer and casual at this time. Thanks for the meeting today. I wanted to talk about there'll be a lot of COVID issues on next week's agenda, and it sounds like you'll be nicely trying to go over what exactly, how can we begin to prepare for the next 6 months and the next few years in San Jose, and what will be kind of our programs and what will be our thinking. And I'm interested just simply, how do we develop, with all the new funding ideas that are happening at this time, how do we develop our future? How do we talk about that? And I'll be interested in that kind of openness and dialogue and discussion about ideas of health and care and looking out after each other. Not so much that we build the outdoor restaurant future so much, but just really caring ideas, how we take care of each other in the next few years. even though the mask mandate, nationally has been like a bit lifted, I think we really have to be cautious here at the local level for at least another month or two and consider what's going on in Southeast Asia and in India. And people from Southeast Asia and China, they come over to San Jose a lot. And I go to AACI Medical Center in West San Jose, and that takes care of a lot of Chinese population who have a lot of relatives. So it's pretty serious. We better treat it seriously still here in San Jose. And my feeling about HVAC systems and how to be open with that dialogue and conversation, hopefully in the future. And thank you for this item.
Thank you, Tobin. Go ahead.
Sorry, am I allowed to speak now about an item that's not on the agenda, or should I wait until the end?
Wait till the end.
Okay,
Thank
then I don't
you.
need to speak now.
All right, thank you. Brenda? Go ahead, Brenda. Brenda, if you want to unmute yourself. We're not able to hear Brenda, so gonna bring it back to the committee. And I know Councilmember Cohen, you wanted to ask some questions.
Sorry, sir, fishing for my mute button. I just wanted to know about the deferrals of 3.7 and 3.8, just an explanation.
I'm happy to answer that. The answer is really agenda management. For the 4th, we do have a 3.1 that could be lengthy, and we do really want to start the study session exactly at 6 so the community can participate. So that was the reason for deferring 3.7 and 3.8 to the 11th, which isn't as crowded as next week.
Okay. Yeah, that's fine. It does look like there's a lot on the next one too, with a lot of potential public input and comments. So, but however you think is the best balance is fine with me. I don't think there's any time. I mean, I think these can both wait a week.
Nora, I don't know if you also wanted to speak to 3.7 or not.
No, my understanding that deferral was being requested by the manager's office because of the agenda issues. We're still looking at the differences. We've provided an overview of the differences. We don't have input yet on from the council on whether or not there's anything else that they would like to see in the ordinance that isn't encompassed by the state. So we don't have that piece of information. But my understanding from last week's rules is that there was less pressure to have an urgency ordinance, or timing was less of an issue. So it's fine with us for it to be deferred.
Okay. So are you looking, if I'm interpreting correctly, are you also looking from the council members who signed on to the memo, more specifics in terms of what they want the council to pursue that's not covered by the state law?
Either today or at a council meeting at the hearing, we have the ordinance posted, and we will bring that forward unless we see or hear something more.
Okay, thank you.
Motion to approve the agenda.
Okay, motion.
Second.
And that includes the ad sheet as well?
Exactly. Thank you. Includes the ad sheet.
All right. And Councilmember Perales also wanted to speak to this.
Thank you, Chair. And yeah, Nora, I think, some of the language that we had proposed in our original memo that you had presented, things like the private right of action, there was a clause that we had taken from San Francisco, right, in regards to some hardship. And so I would just say, I think, I don't think there's probably much to add, but I do think that there was some valuable work that your staff had pulled up that might be worthwhile to bring forward that could augment what the state has. The one, I think, stickler that caused us to delay the first time was in regards to what to do with a business. And in this case, we had the Fairmont claiming bankruptcy. And I think the state has addressed that more or less for us. So that might be, if I think we may have things resolved to come forward with a fairly similar ordinance to the state, with maybe just some minor additions that we had originally contemplated in ours. That would be my my feedback and direction on what we hopefully could see in 2 weeks now.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. So we have a motion and a second. Tony?
Morenas,
Yes.
Cohen,
Aye.
Davis,
Aye.
Peralez,
Yes.
Jones.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, on to the agenda for May 11th. Starting out on pages 4 and 5. Six and 7. Eight and 9. 10 and 11 and 12. And go into the public. Blair, go ahead. Blair? Going once, going twice.
Oh, hello, I'm here.
You made it just under the wire. Go ahead, Blair.
Yeah, thank you. I don't know what happened. The mute didn't go on. The muting device. I don't know what happened, but I'm here now. So thank you. I wanted to talk about for this item. I'm amazed that you're having clean energy issues. You offer 2 new subsidy programs that you're going to be putting into place for community to have choices. How to pay for their community energy needs. It's using PG&E, and it is really, really good. And it's good to hear, and it's hopeful. And from it, I'm wondering, I guess you've been planning for it in a way. And what I'm hoping is that if there is a way that you can, now that you've been planning for this, as a way people can, I don't know, their money needs, their bills can be helped paid for so well. Can you start thinking about renewable energy ideas to put in the place of your current dirty fossil fuels that you're using for community energy, and better emulate the ideas of East Bay Community Energy, which initially started this subsidy idea 6 months ago. And they were a bit experimental, and it was with the idea that if you get a lot of people who cannot afford the community energy plans, if you help with a subsidy plans, that way you can gather up renewable energy ideas and avoid the brown energy, the fossil fuel, dirty fuel energy, which San Jose is stuck with right now. So, good luck in those efforts. How, the next step is we can really make renewables, and, we can be offering renewables, for the next few years. And if there is a major natural disaster coming up, we can be prepared and continue renewable practices after a natural disaster and not have to rely on dirty fossil fuels for generators and such for so long. Your other item is about fireworks ordinance. I have 1:10. I'll try to make this really quick, about 20 seconds, hopefully. You have a fireworks ordinance. It's my hope that you don't surveil everybody to death on this and really consider state and federal, ways to look into these matters, the same with gun issues, and really work with state and federal agencies. Don't arrest and nail people at the local level. That's my hope. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Peralez.
Thank you. Sorry. So this is a little more in general, and I may just give the clerk a heads up and maybe something to come back in. If it needs a memo, then it can take a memo. But in noticing that we've now had the captions, at important times when we come to the vote is maybe some of the worst because it doesn't recognize most of our names. I'm Paralysis usually, which is pretty close. But everybody else is Jones is pretty good. But everybody else is just doesn't recognize names. And then I'm also I consistently will say aye or nays, right, versus yeses and nos, and it totally messes those up. It's all over the place with the letter I, and sometimes it says hi. And so I just think that we had some recommendations that we put forward last summer out of my office on some best practices as we're working through these Zoom meetings. Now that we have the captions, I think it just may be worthwhile to think about some more, updates to how we might make it more clear for people that are hard of hearing and that are truly using the captions. When we come to a vote, I don't know how they're figuring out, who's voting for what, because literally you can't even necessarily tell sometimes it's a vote. And so I myself too am going to try to use yes, maybe, and no's, because those are very clear that it comes across, at least while we're using closed caption. And just wanted to give that heads up to the committee here and in the clerk's office. And then if need be, I'll connect you with you, clerk, to see if we need to come forward with some formal recommendations.
Yes.
And I'll move approval of the May 11th agenda.
And I'll give, since these are Zoom auto captions, I can also give feedback to Zoom.
Great, thank you. Councilmember Arenas.
Thank you, Chair. I was going to suggest for 8.1 having a time certain at either 5 or 6. So either before dinner or after dinner, maybe hear all of the community input before we take a break for dinner, and then hearing the item after. Just hoping that we can have a time certain for that item.
Okay, looking at the agenda, I think we should have enough to take us to 5. So.
And we can decide this, Chair, the next go around if you like.
Yeah.
And we can just put a placeholder on this. I don't know, time certain for 5, and then we can decide next week if we see that there's too little or too much. I just put a little marker on it.
No, that's
yeah, Gloria and I will put a marker on it, and as the deferrals from last week go onto this agenda, we can even put like a recommended kind of start time, like no later than 5 if it really does fill up for the Rules Committee consideration, council member.
great.
Thank you.
So we have a motion and a second already. Tony?
Arenas,
Yes.
Cohen,
Aye.
Davis,
Aye.
Peralez,
Aye.
Jones.
I was going to say aye, but now I'm going to say yes.
See, I did it again.
Anyway, thank you, Tony. On to the public record. Going to the public. I don't see any public speakers.
Motion and note and file.
Second.
Second.
All right, it's been moved in second, and I did. Okay. So, Tony, go ahead.
Arenas,
Yes.
Cohen,
Aye.
Davis,
Yes.
Peralez,
Yes.
Jones.
Yes.
Thank you.
That time I was Alice.
I was trying to say it really, really clearly too.
Alice is a little better than paralysis, So, anyway, or paralysis, I should say. On to the next item, which is the consent calendar. Let's see, we have any members of the public? Blair, go ahead.
Hi, thank you. I think the consent calendar has dumpster day approvals on it. Is that correct? If I may ask, for procedure's sake.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Once again, you have, dumpster day issues. Thank you to your city government staff who are doing a great job in bringing this to council agendas. And I guess, I can offer the next step and just try to remind everyone here the importance of what a dumpster day on a Saturday morning, how it, can bring together all parts of a neighborhood, people with homes and people without homes. And it's a way to really bring out conversation and, getting it together, figuring out what's going on in one's neighborhood and what people can expect of each other. I think it's a really interesting purpose and a good cause. And I hope everybody is into it and call city government staff and ask questions to them, to anybody out there. Ask them questions. It sounds like, they want it to be a good process. So it sounds like something's trusting, and hopefully it can be a trusting process, and good luck how we all can work on its good ideas. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Brenda? Go ahead, Brenda.
Hi, just wanted to thank you guys for everything you do. I just wanted to support this. I think that it's great to have Dumpsters Day. I've seen a lot of these events happening in District 5, and I want to say how successful they are. I volunteer in them, and I can tell you the relief of so many families when you have these. And a lot of city council members have done this consistently, and I think that is part of the solution, right? When we have illegal dumping and garbage around our neighborhoods, these are the solutions that we need, these kind of solutions. Thank you.
Thank you. Omar?
Hi, yeah, this is Omar Vasquez. I'm a community volunteer for I'm a volunteer for organization Luna, and we host a lot of cleaning, dumping. We work together with council member Maya Esparza, and we got to clean our streets. And when I moved to that area a few years ago, it was really a lot of garbage in the street. Right now, it looks a lot better, really a lot better. And that's a way how we can combat, we can fight this illegal dumping by organizing the community, educate the community, and make sure we don't not clean it, but also keep it clean. And at the same time, stay vigilant to not let other people dumping. Trying to put a fine to people, especially now that we have a lot of homeless who they don't know, they don't have a place where to dump, they don't know where to go, they don't have a house, therefore they don't have a place to dump their garbage. I mean, this is clear, this law, this policy, it has a name, and the name is targeting homeless. And that's not acceptable. If we want to target combat or fight illegal dumping, well, that's a good way, like Brenda, what she was saying, put more dumpsters so people can have a place where to dump this garbage instead of just targeting and use the law against people. Thank you.
Thank you. Bring it back to the committee, Councilmember Arenas.
Oh, I apologize, Chair. That was left from the previous.
Would you like to make the motion?
Motion to approve.
Thank you.
Second.
All right. It's been moved and seconded. Tony?
Arenas,
Yes.
Cohen,
Yes.
Davis,
Yes.
Peralez,
Yes.
Jones.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. on to G2. And want to get the preference of the committee if we should just take all of these three, the first three, 2, 3, and 4 together. And I'm going to ask Alex from the to speak to all 3 items.
Yes, Chair. Alexandria Felton with the Office of Intergovernmental Relations. Happy to take all 3.
Okay, thank
at
you.
once.
I don't see any objections from my colleagues, so let's move forward with that. Thank you.
Okay, great. I'll jump right in. So today I'm bringing forward 3 bills that staff agreed to take or agreed to bring back to rules at the direction of the full council on March 23rd. On that day, there were some blue memos that were issued for the March 23rd spring IGR report that requested support of positions on several bills, and 3 of the bills did not have a specific council adopted policy and the city's legislative program. So we were directed by the full council to bring these bills back for review and adoption of a city position. So what I'll do is I'm just going to provide a brief overview of all 3 bills, and then I'll open it up for questions. So the first bill on the agenda is AB 367 from Assemblymember Garcia, which seeks to make menstrual hygiene products freely available in state and local municipal buildings, public secondary schools, community colleges, and campuses in the University of California state system. And we are bringing AB 367 forward at the direction of a blue memo from Councilmember Perales recommending that the city adopt a support position, and staff is recommending a support position of AB 367. The bill is actually sort of an extension from AB 10 from Assemblymember Garcia, which was signed into law back in 2017. And it requires that a public school that serves grades 6 through 12 and meets the 40% pupil poverty threshold that's required to operate a school-wide Title I program to stock at least 50% of their restrooms, the school's restrooms, with menstrual products at all times. And in the case of AB 367, it would specifically require all public schools serving students in grades 6 through 12 to stock at least 50% of their restrooms. Also, California State Universities and each community college district would have to stock 50% of all their campus restrooms. And then public agencies would maintain restroom facilities for public or for their employees would have to stock 50% of all of their restrooms that are open to the public or used by their employees. So in terms of the cost for the city of San Jose, the staff has found that the cost would be fairly minimal to provide these products at no charge. Since 2017, the city has provided menstrual products free of charge in the employee-only city hall restrooms at a cost of roughly $700 to $1,000 annually. And to extend that program to include publicly accessible restrooms at our citywide sites, that includes our park restrooms, regional wastewater facility, and the airport, would cost roughly about $10,000 annually. So in terms of the status of the bill, it passed the Assembly Higher Education Committee last week, and it will be headed to the Assembly floor soon. Next up is, I'd like to talk about HR 831 from Representative Peters, which seeks to improve COVID-19 health vaccine data collection and accessibility. And Representative Anna Eshoo, who's part of our local delegation, is also a co-sponsor of this bill. And we're bringing HR 831 forward at the direction of a blue memo from Councilmember Mahan, recommending that the city adopt a support position. And one thing to note is that while there is some alignment with some of the key aims in the COVID-19 response and mitigation policy in our legislative program, there's not a specific council adopted policy in that program, in the legislative program, for setting governmental data collection and reporting standards. So staff is recommending a support position on 831. And specifically, that bill would establish a working group that would set data collection and reporting standards for key health indicators and make recommendations, including methods to facilitate evidence building through standardized local and state reporting, linking that data sharing between local, state, and federal agencies, and also data on social determinants of health, including that as well. And the working group would also be tasked with developing standards for high priority COVID-19 elements. So that's another part of the bill. And that's something that would go into effect within 30 days after the passage of the bill. And that data would also include genomic epidemiology and modeling outbreak preparedness or modeling for outbreak preparedness and response. And that bill is currently in the House Subcommittee on Health. It was recently introduced within the past couple of months. So we're continuing to track that. And then finally, the last bill on the agenda is HR 1985 from Representative Pasquale, which seeks to expand the Special Focus Facility Program under the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services. And the idea is that it would ensure that all facilities nominated for the program would receive additional oversight, enforcement, and technical assistance. Representative Anna Eshoo is also a co-sponsor of this bill. And we're bringing that forward at the direction of a blue memo from Councilmember Mahan, and the blue memo recommended that the city adopt a support position. Again, there is some alignment with some of the key aims of our COVID-19 response and mitigation policy in the legislative program, but there isn't a specific council adopted policy in the legislative program for nursing home oversight and enforcement. But staff is recommending a support position on HR 1985. Just a little bit of background, the Special Focus Facility Program is something that it compiles a list of nursing home facilities nationwide that have consistently failed to meet federal safety and care requirements. And HR 1985 would expand the Special Focus Facility Program and require the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services to establish a ranking system related to the programs for Medicare skilled nursing facilities and Medicaid nursing facilities, based on the new findings and also recommendations of an advisory council that would be established by the bill. And it would also provide alternative funding and increase educational resources for historically underperforming facilities, and would also task that same advisory council with informing the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services on how to best foster quality improvements. And one thing I wanted to add in terms of sort of local impact is, according to the most recent list that was posted by back in March by the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, there currently are no special focus facilities in the city of San Jose, but there are 36 in the state of California and 3 in the Bay Area, 1 in Fairfield, Menlo Park, and San Francisco. The bill itself was introduced on March 17th, and the author has not actually released the full text for the bill, but the author's staff has advised that the bill is identical to HR 9021, which was introduced last year, and that's the language that staff reviewed for this particular presentation. So with that, I will take any questions.
Thank you, Alex. I know Councilmember Mahan wants to speak to that, and I'm very interested to hear what he has to say after that amazing summary that you just gave us. So Councilmember Mahan, no pressure, but.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm not sure how much I have to add. I think, you know, and this is my first time going through the city's process of identifying legislative priorities to add to the kind of the portfolio of things that we advocate for. And I certainly, I understand there's limited staff time, so I would, you know, trust that staff would kind of figure out how to weigh these against other legislative priorities that may have more impact in the city of San Jose. But when we went through the exercise at council, my team and I went through as many of the bills in Congress and at the state legislature as we could that seemed relevant to COVID response and recovery. That was thematically what we were looking at. And I think we actually suggested 3, one of which had to do with broadband access from our local Congresswoman Zoe Lofgren. And I believe council already moved that one forward. The 2 that Alexandria just described, I think we wanted to refer to staff for further study because frankly, you know, I'm certainly not an expert on federal legislation. And but I'm glad to hear that staff came back and felt that these 2 were aligned with the city's values and priorities. And it seemed to our staff when we did the initial pass at this and highlighted these 3 bills, of which we're talking about 2 today, that healthcare data sharing, collection standards, and really improving the quality of the data in our healthcare system nationally, and the performance and quality of our nursing homes felt like 2 areas where we were severely lacking, and the COVID pandemic, I think, just made even clearer. I think we already knew we had big gaps there, but just made very, very clear that there are real problems. And so the fact that we've got a local congresswoman championing these bills as a co-signer, and they feel just very aligned with the kind of values that we have as a city and what we would hope for from a COVID response over time from our federal government. They felt appropriate for us to at least say we're in support of. But again, I would hope this wouldn't be a big expenditure of staff time and resources. If it can be kind of packaged in with other federal advocacy, I think that could be a positive. And it would be good to add our name, add our voice to these very worthy bills, in my opinion. So I think Alexandria gave you the summary much better than I could have. So I'll stop there. But thanks for your consideration.
Thank you. So we're going to go to the public comments and then bring it back to the committee. So Blair, go ahead.
Hi, Blair Beekman here. I may be a bit out of touch with things, and so I can't really help define policy so much, but I hope my words can offer, thought and good advice for yourselves, how you consider policy decision-making and things. I think it was mentioned there was some sort of Wi-Fi funding needed with Zoe Lofgren. And I wanted to remind from yesterday, I'm really trying to find ways that, we can talk about open public policy in helping bridge the digital divide. And it doesn't have to be outlaw talk or being a rebel. I mean, I think it can be very matter of fact and very community oriented and what are good practices and to really consider in your neighborhood, to weigh the needs of the digital, of bridging the digital divide versus one's own health needs. I'm coming right back. I'm at an end, Councilperson Jones. I was concluding my thought on the subject, and now I move on to the health questions, which are very much related to the 4 and 5G issues. That was spoken about by Councilperson Mahan, that to continue talking in my public comment time about the health surveillance issues, that's become, it can be an issue. As long as the same as 4 and 5G surveillance, surveillance issues with COVID, Fremont school system, they could not open their school systems this year because they wanted to involve technology in the reopening process. And I think they got hampered and got locked up. I don't know how that happened and how that worked in San Jose, but civil rights and civil protections are incredibly important to the surveillance and technology process, sir. I mean, I'm
sorry,
speaking.
I'm sorry for interrupting, but you got to stay on topic.
Chappie Jones.
And your time is up. Brenda?
Hi, thank you again. I just wanted to quickly speak on the AB 367, the no cost for menstrual products. I find this a very great bill, and I'm so glad to see it being brought here. I think it's a wonderful thing to support. And sometimes I think I'm dreaming because I've been advocating for this for so long, and to see it actually now being passed is really, really awesome. And most importantly, I think that to see this implemented in schools is amazing, because we do have families that are unhoused in schools that don't have these kind of menstrual pads at home. And now seeing that it will be pushed to City Hall and parks and everywhere, it makes me really happy, because we also have unhoused community members that this is one of the things that they have always asked for. It's a human need, and I don't think any woman should ever have to pay for that. I think it should have always been free. I'm still waiting for the day that it's free and we no longer have to purchase these in the stores. But I want to thank you guys for bringing this, and I'm excited to see this being passed and supported by you guys. And you guys have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Brenda. Bringing it back to the committee, Councilmember Perales.
Yeah, first off, thank you, Alexandria. Certainly have enjoyed working over the years with Benna, and she will be missed, but I think you just demonstrated, and you have over the last year or so on how well of a job you're going to be able to do to pick up. That was a tremendous report back on these 3 bills, so thank you very much for your diligence on that. And And I would agree with Councilmember Mahan. And, I think at times we don't dive into what we mean by support, but support can mean many different things. And I would agree that doesn't always have to mean that we're deploying a lot of your time and your effort up at the state, but rather at times it could be things where we are lending our name in support of joining coalitions, right, that are maybe really leading efforts. And so I do think all three of these are worthy. And I appreciate your analysis on that, in agreement with that. In regards to the feminine hygiene products, we have had actually at City Hall for the last couple of years, have had them funded for free. And it was in a conversation actually with my staff during a retreat a number of years ago that we were kicking around ideas on equity, and this idea had come up, or had come up, and it was really, I think, enlightening to me to go into the restroom and then realize that this was something that we were charging our city employees for as well. And then when you think about it across the board, and that's what really the state is getting to now, is looking at, especially in schools, higher institutions, public facilities, the importance of ensuring that feminine hygiene products are made available. And it's not something that we're charging people for, especially when they're a fairly nominal cost, which is what we found out here locally at City Hall a couple years ago. And so I'm just happy that we're able to support this and build on the efforts that we have led on here at the city. And so with that, I'll make the motion to approve the staff recommendation of support for all three of these bills.
Second.
Second.
Thank you. Councilmember Arenas?
Thank you, Chair, and also want to thank you, Councilmember Perales, for leading this effort for feminine hygiene products to be at City Hall for a couple of years now. It really facilitates things for a lot of women, especially in this day and age where we don't really carry cash. You just don't really do that, right? But more importantly, it really comes down to acknowledging the needs of the women in San Jose. And so I really appreciate that. And I think I've shared before that in my district, we have a couple of groups who actually do some fundraising. I know downtown there's a really large group that does also fundraising. There's a pad party. But the groups in my district are from our young girls who've created these fundraisers, and then they send them to third world countries. And so this is definitely a step up for us here. And hopefully it'll continue to encourage other groups to help other developing countries to support. I had a question. I wasn't really wondering about this piece because I know this sounds like this is already aligned. We've approved this. The council has approved the feminine products, and it's aligned with I think with our priorities. The other two, Alexandra, I heard that there is no legislative priority that is aligned to it. So I was wondering, what is the level of commitment on your part? I heard that, and I don't know who said it, but it could be just lending our name, and that's easy enough. But I was wondering, is there anything more that we're going to do on the other two to lend more than lending our name that will require more?
So I think that really depends. I mean, I think when we talk about sort of making a legislative priority, it means it's something that's in our legislative program. So it's already been adopted by council as one of the policies that we will incorporate into our advocacy throughout the year. So that's really and so there's a number of bills and issues that we do so with. Adding, when it comes to issues or bills that we're voting on today that wouldn't be in our legislative program, what you're doing is sort of adding that to the slate of issues that we would then advocate on for through IGR. And so that could include, as I think a couple of the council members mentioned, so that could be adding our name to the coalition. It could be issuing a letter. It could be beyond that. But I think it really depends on what the desire is. And also, obviously, the bandwidth of staff is important, but it's also in terms of the priority level that's communicated to us by council as well. And we follow council direction on that.
Got it. So will these go to council for decision, or will the rules committee decide to place them on the legislative agenda?
These would move forward, council member, to the full committee. So the full committee is who has the power to amend the legislative guiding principles. You know, one of the things, just to clarify that, you know, we've tried to do with the IGR program in the past is we bring that forward in the fall now before bills are introduced. And in that memo, we really tee up what staff priorities think they should be. You know, there's 500 different bills that we could take positions on, a variety of things. And I think Councilmember Mahan put it perfectly. There's some where you lend your name to, like maybe it's like a phase 4, like we're not going to play well in that arena, or we don't spend a lot of time there, but lending our name is certainly really good for the cause. And then there's ones that are those priorities that Alex spoke to, like what we would consider like a #1 priority, which is the direction we have this year around seeking all the federal funding from the federal government, or working with the state on homelessness, and additional funding for affordable housing, or some of our digital inclusion and broadband access. So I think we try and set those expectations with the council in the fall, so that through the year, that's where we're spending a majority of our time. And these other bills that, you know, they either don't kind of align with the legislative guiding principles, but it's still good. That's where we can kind of take through this process and lend our name, because as we know, those coalitions are really important in Sacramento and DC.
Yeah, I was under the impression that the path forward was when you provide the legislative reports on I think on a quarterly basis. And that's how we typically add to the legislative report. So the only concern I have is for the Nursing Home Reform Modernization Act. I'm not sure what the city of San Jose how it would relate to this particular one. Or even the health statistics. I mean, I supported the idea to have our own health officer. I think Councilmember Perales, you offered that department nomination. It just didn't, you know, the council didn't choose it. And so anyways, I want to make sure that those items that are already on the agenda, on the legislative agenda, that they continue to get prioritized, and that these don't I don't know, take some place in terms of those others that have been waiting in kind of in the line. So that's just my feedback and my concern, and especially around, you know, nursing home reform. I'm not sure how we, other than maybe development, I'm not sure how we relate to that, but I'll support this, absolutely.
Great. Thank you, Council Member. Alex, this doesn't necessarily relate to AB 367 because the amount is so nominal, but just in general, I've had questions about, you know, some of these state laws, which are effectively unfunded mandates. And I just want, you know, to get your feedback in terms of what should we do or can we do when we get, you know, these laws that are passed, where we're talking about millions of dollars of unfunded mandates versus, you know, the nominal amount we're talking here. But just in general, what would be our path forward?
Well, you know, I think my answer to that would be, it depends on the priority, on the you know, so I think if it's something, for instance, one of our top priorities is homelessness and addressing homelessness within the city of San Jose. So I think that we would have to determine what the impact would be locally and what contribution the city would make to that in terms of an unfunded mandate. But and I think that's a discussion that we would have, and I think it varies on that issue. So that's a discussion that we would have with council. But I think you have to take it case by case with every issue and with every bill. So I don't think there's really a general approach to all unfunded mandates. I think it really starts with sort of that analysis of what the impact is going to be to the city, and what priority it has for our residents and for our community, and for what we're trying to accomplish in terms of supporting our community in the city of San Jose.
So do we have any ability to require the state to define those mandates? Because my understanding, there is actual constitutional law in the state's constitution about a prohibition on unfunded mandates.
That I'm not sure about. I'd have to get back to you on that.
No, okay, yeah, we can continue the discussion, but
I clearly won't speak from a legal aspect since we have a city attorney that does that. I will say, having worked in the Capitol for a long time, that it's an ongoing conversation within the Assembly Appropriations Committee and Senate Appropriations Committee, but Alexandria is absolutely correct. It often is handled on a kind of bill by bill basis on something like this. For our own costs, they're quite minimal. And it's something as we kind of step into this that we want to do. In contrast, there's pieces of legislation this year around virtual council meetings or rules committee meetings and interpretations. And some of those bills could cost us tens of thousands of dollars. So we weigh in heavily and try and spend a lot of time with the legislature, making sure that those two committees in the Assembly and the Senate understand those financial impacts. So, hey, we agree on the policy goal, but really help us get there through implementation. So sometimes the way Sacramento's positioned, implementation and policy don't often align. And so the IGR program, at least for our city, works very hard to make sure that we're kind of demonstrating to the legislature what implementation of their policies would take at a local level.
great. Thank you, Lee, and thank you, Alex. And there's no other questions, comments, so we have a motion and a second. So Tony?
Sorry, Arenas,
Yes.
Cohen,
Yes.
Davis,
Yes.
Peralez,
Yes.
Jones.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, on to illegal dumping fines and enforcement. And I'm gonna go to the public first, and we have two speakers. Brenda is first. Go ahead, Brenda.
Hi again, my name is Brenda Sendejas. I am a resident from District 5. I'm the vice chair of the Movimiento Democratic Club and also the secretary for the Silicon Valley Young Dems. I'm commenting today to urge the commission and the council to reject this recommendation. This fosters a culture of punitive, divisive attitudes to our vulnerable community. This does nothing to address the root cause behind trash. A 10K fine is outrageous. One of the reasons I'll tell you why there is garbage outside, a lot of the abatements that have been happening have left a lot of garbage out on the streets. And that is one of the problems. And the rest is residents. I do want clean streets. Yes, I do. But I want more dumpster days. I want more solutions. A fine will not solve this litter problem because we've had them and it has done nothing. And 10K is outrageous. And now rewarding residents to give information is horrible. You're pitting community against community. And I'm gonna tell you this, but where I live, when people report people, people find out, and then you have people retaliating, and it creates a horrible environment. I can't even finish reading this because I could already see the problems that will come with this. It's not only that, but do you find that 10K, if someone cannot pay it, they will be going to jail for it, or I don't know what else is gonna happen. And we don't need these type of problems. We need solutions. We need maybe people being fined to garbage picking for 2 months for doing that. But 10K fees is not a solution. I urge you guys to reject this. Thank you.
Thank you. Blair?
Hi, Blair Beekman here. Can you hear me?
Loud and
Yeah.
clear.
Great, thank you. Those were like really incredibly good words to hear, and thank you so much for those previous words from the previous speaker. I did not have the bravery to say those words, and she has really described what we should be considering. And I think you could get a lot of more trust out of people to want to call and ask about dumpster day issues than levying heavy fines on them. And a $10,000 fine, she's given a perspective, that's too much, and that's just good to know. And she kind of laid it down. And I'm a bit offended that I try a lot to be real sensitive about issues that are difficult to talk about, I think, for all of us. And I understand that I have a bit of a, I don't know the word, remedial problem, and I'm not the smartest guy in the room. But yet I'm trying to work towards something important and sensitive, and with many issues, simply be informational and offer, food for thought, ideas for thought, and to consider. I'm growing offended that Councilperson Jones is continuously cutting me off and shushing me and treating me like a child, saying, "That's enough, little boy." He's got to let me work. He's got to let me offer public comment, and for all of ourselves, that I think we're trying to connect and address really important concepts that relate to agenda items, and you're not letting that happen. And in fact, you're making a situation more uptight by not allowing. I'm trying to be sensitive about issues, and you're not allowing that, and that hurts. And I hope that we can all talk about this afterwards and learn important lessons, what we're trying to develop as public, and allow that. Thank you.
Thank you, Blair. Victoria?
Hi, can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Hello, everyone. My name is Victoria Partida, and I'm the president of the Tropicana Lanai Neighborhood Association. And today I'm asking the commission to reject this recommendation of illegal dumping fines and enforcement. This recommendation directly harms our unhoused neighbors and fosters a culture of punitive attitudes towards our most vulnerable community. In addition, it does nothing to address the root cause of illegal dumping. What I can offer is a recommendation that we've done in our neighborhood to address illegal dumping. We've worked very tirelessly with Councilmember Esparza to host consistent community cleanups and educate our neighbors on what to do with unwanted items. Your best cameras are your constituents. They know where the hotspots are. You don't need to invest in cameras. Work with your constituents instead of trying to utilize community service officers. You have a great start to a campaign, and that's your 3-item pickup. Work to better that and actually promote it among the community members. Thank you.
Thank you. Veronica?
Great. Thank you. And good afternoon, council members. And I'm also here to advocate and reject for this. This is another way of really punishing already who has been punished by this systems, by the COVID, right? And just like a previous speaker said, most of this trash is being put out here because of the people that are being displaced. And yes, most of the trash is also being targeted here and inside San Jose. So putting a $10,000 fine for people that can't even afford to live here, it's ridiculous. The previous speaker was talking about the amazing work that they've been doing collaborative with their council member. And I think that is another way, and that shows us that there's other ways and equitable ways that we can support our communities instead of putting this punitive and going to right away punishing people, instead of educating them, instead of building sustainable ways and maintaining those sustainable ways and supporting our communities to stay clean. Just like everyone else, I want to see my streets clean, and I've also done the cleanup days, and those are amazing and they happen here, but let's think outside more. And I know that we have the racial equity department or office of racial equity that can support in analyzing and using their tools to see if this is actually a racial equity tool that would help us put in a take-in fine. And if not, then what are something that it's already working in different neighborhoods, and how can we amplify that to be through the whole city? Thank you.
Thank you. Before we bring it back to the committee, I'm gonna go to Lee. I know you didn't produce an early consideration document, so I wanted to give you an opportunity to speak to this item.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. And no, we did not do early consideration document. The administration would recommend that we bring this work forward as outlined in recommendation to a manager's budget addendum for further council evaluation. And if the Rules Committee would like to move forward with recommendation 1 now, that would need to move forward to the council.
Okay, great. before we go back to the committee, I think I might have missed Omar. Omar, did you want to speak to this item?
Sure, thank you for the time. Yes, my name is, again, I'm Omar and I'm volunteering with Luna, Community Organizing. And something that I learned working from this community organization is that we pay taxes and sometimes we tax ourselves to create programs to help people. We don't want to pay taxes to create programs to persecute people. There is something that one of the framers say, the fist of the government should not be too coercive, something like that. I don't remember the phrase, but I guess somebody quoted lately, and that's what I see here. We're using the government to smash people, to persecute people because they are poor. And what is gonna be next? Are we gonna persecute people because they're black? Are we gonna persecute people because they don't have a house? No, this is totally unfair. This is totally unacceptable that we pay taxes to use our government to persecute somebody else. And that's something that I'm not gonna support it. I'm not for it. And my recommendation is to reject this. Thank you.
Thank you. And I promise I will bring this back to the committee, but before I do that, I'm going to allow Councilmember Jimenez to speak on this item.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Can you guys hear me just fine? I'm on my cell phone.
Loud and clear.
All right, wonderful. Well, thank you so much for taking up this item. I also want to say thank you to the community for expressing their perspective. I think we can all, and just in the role, what we play as a council member, we know that illegal dumping is really a citywide problem. And so the effort put forward behind this, or put behind this measure or this memo to bring it forward, really is an acknowledgement of that. It's an acknowledgement that what we're currently doing isn't working. The other thing that's important to know is that this memo, the vote today in the Rules Committee is simply to move it to a full conversation in front of the council. And that's what I urge you to do. I understand, and we understood when we put the memo together, that we aren't going to have a full sort of vetted out discussion about this item because there's a lot of nuance to it, as indicated by some of the residents that called in. But what I would say is that one of the things that stood out to me is, I was a longtime resident of District 5, East San Jose. Obviously, I know full well, and because my family is and was some of those families that were struggling financially. But additionally, my family wasn't dumping either, right? And so what I would say is I think there's this false narrative and something we need to get away from in assuming that the dumping is taking place by people that don't have the means to go pay the dump fee. I think what I know to be true, just because I've heard stories and seen people do this, is that it's corporations, it's some folks that work for companies that go dump, irrespective of what district they live in. And so I think it's very important to just maintain a very neutral and nuanced perspective on this. Is a $10,000 fine eliminating the tiers the exact solution? I'm not so sure. I think there's ways to address some of the concerns that have been expressed, maybe delaying fines, maybe community service. There's a host of ways to address it, but what we sought to do with this memo is simply bring it before the full council so we can have a thorough discussion. Even if what emerges from this is more money for dumpster days, I'm all for that. My district, similar to every other district in the city, does those. We think those are certainly beneficial. I'm not so sure that more dumpster days are going to solve this. I think we need to penalize those folks that continue to dump on our streets, irrespective of what district they're from, whether it's an individual or a company. And so I just thought it was important enough to bring forward. And so that's what we're doing. So certainly available for questions. And I do appreciate the city manager's office taking this back and running the numbers and seeing how feasible this is as it relates to the budget. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Councilmember Perales.
Yeah, thank you. And agreeably right that there's a lot more to discuss here. But I do think that goes without saying the challenges that we've had and not just recently, but ongoing when it comes to illegal dumping. And I've had an opportunity to witness firsthand and see some of these illegal dumping sites, many of them throughout District 3. I don't think there's a particular focus in any one area of our city. I know that we have a lot of illegal dumping sites that get utilized regularly throughout District 3. And certainly I know down in District 2, there was one of the largest illegal dumping sites that made some news this past year. And I would agree that the perception that somehow this is meant to be punitive on a particular group in our community, specifically those lower income or minority groups, is absolutely not true, and it's not at all what Councilmember Jimenez and I would ask that we prioritize on. The truth of the matter is there's actually a lot of very wealthy individuals that do own private businesses, and instead of paying dump fees, will locate some of these locations in our low-income communities of color and illegally dump in those locations. And there are even large corporations that will utilize spaces. We have a space in District 3 that is being rented by a company renting Caltrans state owned property that is supposed to be for a particular purpose, and they've been using it to dump a lot of their trash, and they'll store it there for months and at times even years in different areas of the site, and it has created these areas infested with rats that then impact the communities, those low-income communities of color that are nearby. And so it's not at all, I think, a one-sided issue, and absolutely having consequences for those types of actions are important. And if fines are not high enough for people that have the means to pay them, then they would rather pay the fine than actually go out and use the dump when they decide what the risk is on how frequent they may actually get caught for something like that, and they'll take that gamble. I would also say that more recently, my office had fought to ensure that we have more opportunities for low-income communities and specifically property owners that don't have the sidewalk and may not have the means to be able to cover that cost. We have a hardship program that goes in place, and I think that, as was I think insinuated in the last paragraph of our memo, on looking at how do we ensure that we're not actually imposing just greater fines on people that can't afford it. Certainly, it makes no sense to fine somebody from the unhoused community, and quite frankly, if you're from the unhoused community, you don't have the same means to throw away your trash. And so, in no way is this direction pointed towards our unhoused community, or is it pointed towards those in our low-income communities. And in fact, if anything, a lot of what I hear from lower-income communities that I represent is that the dumping is a major issue, and we have hosted numerous dumpster days. They are beneficial when you can host them, but over the last 6.5 years, they haven't made a difference in these illegal dumping sites that I know for certain, and we've had even video evidence and there have actually been some people we've been able to catch that are of financial means, owning businesses, and then simply just using our public space in our communities to dump. And so I do think we need to look at what more we can do in that regard. And so with that, I'll ask that we approve this item and move it forward.
All right, we have a motion. Can I get a second?
Second, but I have a clarifying question.
Okay, we're gonna go to Councilmember Arenas first, and I see you're in the queue, Councilmember Davis.
Thank you, Chair. I want to thank all of the residents who've called in. I know that they're very passionate about this item, and so are we. And that's one of the reasons why we have dumpster days. It's one of the reasons why we encourage our neighborhood associations to do cleanups and so on, because we all take pride in San Jose. And it's part of the identity of San Jose in keeping clean. And it made me think back to to something I had suggested some time ago, which is a campaign to build on the San Jose pride that we have, because there is a lot of San Jose pride, and you can see it in the Instagram handles and Twitter handles, similar to what Texas did when they were having a huge issue of dumping along their highways, in their inner city streets, and they just couldn't manage it. And finally, a marketing firm, and this is through the Department of Transportation, developed the "Don't Mess with Texas" campaign, and put out bins that worked on that kind of element, and pulled that community in. And so I don't know that we haven't fully explored a campaign, a marketing campaign that would help with that. And I think this is just one aspect of dumping. This is not to solve for some of those repeat offenders that Councilmember Perales was talking about. And I think there is some value to maybe focusing in some of those areas that we have some repeat offenders, that these are businesses, and that they're not necessarily in our communities, because I could very well see, and I think it was Brenda who called in and said, once you begin to think that your neighbor has reported you, then those feelings start to build up, and then there's resentments, and then there's this lack of harmony within that neighborhood. It just builds on and on and on. And that is, I know, not the spirit of this memo. I'll support it so that it can go to council so that we can hear and we can talk about it. But I'd like to just recommend to my council colleagues, Perales and Jimenez, to also integrate some alternative consequences that you've heard so far. And I thought that was absolutely fabulous, of having some volunteer times that translate into a $10,000 fine. I don't know what that would mean in hours, but I think that's a great suggestion. And lastly, I was going to suggest that there could be some alternatives with maybe figuring out with small businesses. There are a lot of small businesses that are in construction that may not be able to afford dumping fees, and how do we work with those folks so that they can, because it reminds me also of the issue that we had with all of the abandoned cars that were in our streets, and we had them towed, and then all of a sudden folks couldn't afford to get those tows out of the yards, and then that meant the yards were full, those tow yards were full, they couldn't pull any more in, and then those cars get sold, and then the city of San Jose has to come in and help fix that. And so I hate to see this go down the same road. So I'm going to ask maybe Lee, I know that you didn't submit an analysis of this, but I'm hoping that maybe what you could help answer is maybe the number of citations that had been issued in this past year, and how many have actually been paid, if these are individuals or corporations or agencies. And if there are already some cameras that are installed in dumping sites, hotspots, how effective have they been? Because I'm guessing they have to be a very high definition, high quality type of camera so that you can see the license plate as the car is leaving. And there's folks who might be very smart who take their license plate or cover the license plate or make a number look like another number. So anyways, just my thoughts. I appreciate the idea. I think it's something that will help us clean up our city, but we have to be considerate in terms of inadvertently creating some hostile neighborhoods for our community. and some just some fees that people are never going to be able to climb out of. And many of our families are already falling way behind in economically. So those are my thoughts. I'd love to hear from my colleagues if they're open to maybe some flexibility when this comes back.
All right, thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Davis.
Thank you. I have a couple of questions for Councilmember Perales, as the maker of the motion. Did you mean for all three of these recommendations to come back to council together? And so that's one question. It's not stated in the memo that they would come back that they would go to council.
Yeah, we could take staff's guidance on, I think, what was it, staff, that your response in that regard?
We're actually fine however you would like to handle it. If you want to move all three forward for council conversation, we can absolutely do that. I was just going to say specifically with recommendation number 2, which is kind of the information on the MBA as part of the budget process, we can commit to doing that and bringing it forward, separately if you didn't want to move all forward, but obviously all three are interrelated.
Okay, yeah, I'm comfortable with all three, but I also could see where the MBA could just be a standalone coming separately. So I'll see where my colleague, I think if he's still on, Councilmember Jimenez, if you have any thoughts on that.
Yeah, was that for me, Raul?
Yeah, and just the question from Councilmember Davis was in regards to, will we be moving all three of these recommendations to the council for input, or maybe would it be just a couple of them? Say, for instance, recommendation 2, the MBA, would that just come back on its own through the budget process? So, and I'm comfortable with all three of these going to the full council, is what I said. So, but wanted to hear your input.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. I mean, I think 1 and 3 can. It seems to me, obviously, the budget process is its own sort of designated process, and so I'd be happy with 2 just being obviously sent off to the budget process, and then 1 and 3 just moving forward to the full council for discussion. It seems like a logical way to do it, but I'm open to ideas.
Yeah, so I'm open to both as well, Councilmember Davis. If you feel that all three should have a more further conversation at the council before the budget process, then we could do that. Otherwise, I think the MBA, the recommendation 2, can just come back during the budget process.
Well, I think given the conversation today, it would be helpful to refine that direction for the MBA with the full council. That's part of the reason why I was asking. So I'd appreciate it if the motion was for the entire memo, every item, to come back to council for discussion and action.
That's fine. I'm fine with that.
Great, thank you.
Same here.
And then, great, thank you both. I appreciate that. And then for Lee, is this something that would be, I know we have deferred some items from next week's agenda to the 11th. Would this be coming on the 18th?
Yeah, I think we would look at bringing it forward on the 18th. But if other items drop off on the 11th, we might be able to fit it in there. But
okay.
As mentioned, the 11th is starting to get crowded with the deferrals from the next week.
Right. And something maybe we could talk about in terms of illegal dumping is the amount of illegal dumping. I think we don't mean, we should clarify what that means. If it's, the size of an armchair or a couch or something that's not just throwing out a cup of coffee, although I don't want anyone to throw any litter out of their vehicles, and we've definitely all seen that lately. The increase in trash has been very, very frustrating for me and for all of our residents when they're out and about in the city. So I want to thank both council members Jimenez and Perales for bringing this forward and for allowing us to have another discussion about this and try to come at this problem in another way. So thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Cohen.
Yeah, thank you. And I want to thank my colleagues, Councilmember Jimenez and Perales, for bringing this topic forward. I also thank the members of the public who rightfully expressed concerns about the implementation of something like this. My initial reaction to this proposal is that I'm not convinced that the level of the fine is the issue. People may or may not know our current level of the fine is $2,500 per violation, which I believe would provide more deterrence if our enforcement were better. I think our biggest issue is lack of enforcement and how we better enforce the current rules that are already on the books. I'm perfectly happy to discuss the fine, the level of the fine, but I think that the other elements of this memo are actually more valuable to us and how we improve enforcement, how we provide more resources for people to dump properly. It's one of the reasons why in our district, we're putting a lot of effort into promoting the free large item pickup from people's homes to let them know this is very simple and available to everybody. We ought to be doing more of that promotion. We also, for small items, ought to be really evaluating where are our garbage facilities in the city. Can people easily find places to throw out their garbage when they're going around? But this, I know, is about big items. And I do agree with the council members who brought this forward. What we're seeing, what we're addressing here is not homeless encampments. It's not, the occasional dropped garbage. It's the concerted actions of violators who intentionally are dumping on our streets to avoid properly disposing of things. And many of this is construction waste, contractor waste. We see it all over the city, but at Caltrans interchanges where people are dumping big piles of construction debris rather than find the proper ways to dispose of them. So I believe that we just need to be clear on who it is that this and what the purpose of this enforcement effort is. Maybe make it clear what we mean by a violation, what we mean by dumping, so that it's not going to be looking like it's targeting people that we're not intending to target. But I'm looking forward to having this discussion with the full council, so I'll support moving the memo forward.
Great, thank you. Councilmember Reyes, did you, I know that you had a desire to have the motion modified. Did you, were your issues or concerns addressed, or?
Thank you, Chair. No, they weren't. I wanted to hear from Councilmember Perales or Councilmember Jimenez if they will be have thought of integrating any of the items that maybe some of our residents suggested or that I have suggested, or are they just going to move forward as is?
Councilmember Arenas, this is Councilmember Jimenez. This is just my perspective, but what I assume is going to happen, obviously, everyone's been listening to this. Councilmember Perales is listening. I'm paying close attention. Very much appreciate some of the comments from the council members and, of course, the community. And so I just to state very publicly what you should expect if this gets sent to the full council is there will be another memo sort of clarifying some of the direction and incorporating much of what we've heard into the direction. But we can certainly go down that path now and do it off the cuff, but I think there's more value in just moving the item forward. And then I commit to you very publicly that at least those of us in the Brown Act are going to move forward a memo that really addresses more of the nuances of this. And your ideas were very good as well. And so we're going to, I think you're going to see
Councilmember Jimenez.
Anytime.
That's all I was looking for.
Yeah. So that's what the plan is, I think. Yeah.
As the maker of the motion, I'll say ditto, Councilmember Dennis.
Okay, wonderful. Listen, I just want to make sure that our residents know that we're listening as well. I knew that you would be very flexible and open to see and will catch on to some of those nuances. I look forward to seeing that second version. I'm going to support this memo so that we can have that conversation. Because there is an issue that we need to solve, and so we need the community's participation as well and input to help make that the most effective strategy for our city. So thank you, and thank you, Chair.
Awesome. All right, we have a motion in a second. So Tony?
Arenas?
Yes.
Cohen?
Yes.
Davis?
Yes.
Perales?
Yes.
Jones?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, so on to open forum, and we have 3 speakers, starting with Brenda. Okay, Brenda just fell off, so we have the number ending in 5140.
Yeah, you just want to. Hello, hello. Yeah,
Yes.
you guys are all hot. You guys are all hot and heavy for fines. I mean, what's going to happen when people don't pay them? You're going to get out the bullwhips and the shackles. Hey, you know, Bull Connor called. He wants his job back as a sheriff. What are you going to do? $10,000 bucks? You really think people are going to pay that? They're going to go to court. They're going to go bankrupt. I'll tell you what, reduce the fine and you'll be able to collect it a lot easier. Make people a deal when you catch them dumping it. Sending them a bill from Arizona or however you guys do it is crazy. And you guys love all the, I mean, you guys want to bring back cameras for speeding. Hey, the Stasi called. They want their job back, right? Who do you people think you are that you're going to all of a sudden defund the police, or better yet, reimagine the police? Who's going to go collect these fines when it doesn't happen? Are you going to start kneeling on people's necks? Are you going to, what are you going to do? How are you? I want you to answer me, Peralez, how you're going to do it, because you're a copper. You know what to do, right? You get out those billy clubs. You start whacking people around, man. That's what's going to happen. What's going to happen when someone resists arrest for a fine, and they die in custody? Going to have some problems. You guys need to reevaluate city council. You need to reevaluate how the fines are, because it's draconian to do that. That's cruel and unusual punishment. You're charging like 1,000 times what anybody else in the world charges, because you think you're in Silicon Valley, that people are going to pay it. You guys need to have your heads examined. I want you guys to answer the question. Do any of you have the courage to answer what I just asked you? Do you think people are going to pay it? And how are you going to collect it? How are you going to collect that money? Are you going to send?
Thank you, sir. Blair?
Hi, thank you. Blair Beekman here. Just a reminder, you know, I most often try to be, you know, sensitive and informational in presenting my public comments, and that really I try to be really relevant to the item. And I hope that can be respected. I'm not trying to be adversarial most of the time. It's difficult subject matter I often try to talk about. So try to have some patience in what I'm trying to connect. I think I am doing a fairly nice job about it, and I think it should be respected and not shushed away, you know, like a small child. You know, and I hope with these issues about dumping are very much of a thank you to councilpersons Davis and Arenas, who really just, it's nice when we're confused and people steer a really good course, and it's a relief. And so thank you very much. I have the slight feeling you may have tried to tuck away and duck away from the surveillance issues about this, and you tried to put it back into city staff stuff when surveillance needs to be openly talked about and as part of this process, and open public policies for all of this needs to be discussed. It's all that I'm talking about these in my life right now. You know, how do we make the technology process open and not secretive? And you guys naturally want to make it secretive, and I naturally think it should be an open, discussed process. And that's peace, and that's democracy, and that's a responsible future. Don't tuck it away if you can, please. And to conclude, you know, we're coming up to May Day and Cinco de Mayo, and it'll be our first test for our new police chief, Anthony Mata. I hope everyone does well. I got a feeling things are going to go really well, and that the purpose of May Day is to really consider our better practices and good thought, which is what I try to offer the public comment process. So let's hope we all will be having, you know, a good thought process these coming days.
Thank you, Blair. Thank you. Dave?
Hey, good afternoon. On behalf of the Sierra Club Loma Prieta chapter, I'd like you to alert you to the fact that next Tuesday, the full council will decide whether to continue providing staff resources to support the Urban Confluence Silicon Valley project. A project of this scale will impact the city for good or for ill for many years to come. So it's important that you pay attention. It is already quite clear that the proposal or the proposed project has significant failings, which will require many exceptions to our city's general plan and other thoughtfully developed guidelines. So please read the list of concerns in the letter that you will be receiving from Sierra Club, Audubon Society, California Native Plant Society, Silicon Valley Youth Climate Action, South Bay Clean Creeks Coalition, Keep Coyote Creek Beautiful, and others. It's important that the council on Tuesday help guide the San Jose Light Tower Corporation toward a new direction rather than launching now with known defects. Thank you very much. Have a nice afternoon.
Thank you. Molly?
Good afternoon. My name is Molly McLeod, and I want to urge the city of San Jose to join the Cities for All campaign. This week I attended an event called Cities for All Lightning Talks on Inclusive Urban Innovation. Google actually participated. I don't know if you watched the Oscars, but the commercials from Google focused on disability representation and accessibility, while the company certainly has issues of racism and ableism to address. So does the city of San Jose. And since they're going to be neighbors, there's an opportunity to join the global conversations with the Cities for All campaign. This would be part of a practice group and resources similar to the What Works Cities that San Jose has already been a part of. You can get more information on the web at Cities for All, CITIES, the number 4, all.org, and the campaign to find out about what the city would commit to in terms of the purposes of the campaign, and also to get information about how to benefit from. So City of San Jose actually is positioned with all of the CASP-trained building staff to make San Jose a more accessible city. What is absolutely needed is the willingness and intention on the part of the leadership, both elected and management, to make sure that this is addressed. So thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Molly. Buford?
Hello, I'm Buford Barr, 36-year resident of San Jose. My thanks to the Rules Committee for giving me the time to express my concerns. From what I understand, the city staff is advocating opportunity housing and a plan that eliminates single-family residential zoning throughout the entire city and replaces it with zoning that permits duplexes, triplexes, fourplexes, and multiple ADUs on every single family lot within the city. I'm concerned about the significant increase in the number of cars, lack of off-street parking, noise, congestion, plus the increased cost and availability of police, EMS, water, fire, garbage, sewer, road maintenance, and other services. Opportunity housing seems to be a staff attempt to circumvent the City General Plan 2040 strategy to address affordable housing by building urban villages and high-density housing near mass transit. This is a sound, viable solution, and it preserves the nature and character of existing residential neighborhoods. Why not implement that? Questionable practices, disingenuous comments, and not openly highlighting obstacles and possible negative impact on existing neighborhoods by city staff must stop. Finally, if this is opportunity housing is something the city council is going to seriously consider, there must be a full, honest notification to the public, and any final decision needs to be made by a vote of the citizens of San Jose. Thank you for your time and hopefully serious consideration of my concerns.
Thank you. Tobin?
Mute. Hi, thank you. It's my understanding that you're going to be taking up the general plan task force recommendations and forwarding it to the city council in the very near future. With regard to that, I'd first like to thank council members Arenas and Davis for your work on that task force. There are some excellent ideas that have come out of this project. However, there's one recommendation that is not like the others. And my ask of the Rules Committee is that it be separated and excluded from the rest of the report that you someday forward to the council. I'm referring specifically to the recommendation to direct staff to continue studying the elimination of zoning citywide, single-family zoning, and what its advocates are calling opportunity housing. Here's why you should hold back on that one. First, it's beyond the scope of the current general plan and the task force charter. Number two, it's untested and unproven anywhere in the US. Number three, it's extremely controversial. Some might say radioactive. Residents are extremely upset, and most council members are afraid to even talk about this with their constituents. And number four, various bills are pending in Sacramento right now, as you probably know, that could potentially supersede anything the council might be considering. So for those reasons, it would be best to put this one aside from the rest of the task force recommendations. Don't let this one item become a distraction that delays and derails the rest of the extensive set of good ideas the task force has produced. None of our elected officials have campaigned on the promise of eliminating single-family zoning. The idea has not been vetted with voters. So please hit the pause button. Direct city staff to cease promoting it and cease work on the ordinance that they're reportedly already drafting. Monitor what's happening in Sacramento. Hold this back from the council at least until 2022, when it can coincide with the mayoral campaign season. Thank you.
Thank you. Gail?
Hi, good afternoon. Are there? This is Gail Osner. Thank you. Good afternoon. I just wanted to get on record, since I'm not available on the 5th, the next Rules Committee, or the 11th, about sanction encampments. We have been having wonderful meetings with some of the housing staff, and it's been great. They've heard a lot of our concerns and our suggestions. And I think one of the suggestions, we know the word sanction, a lot of folks don't like that word. So I was thinking of maybe we should change it to safe sleeping zone. That's something I think is very nice, safe sleeping zone. So what we've been talking about are the camps we have now and turning them into sanctioned encampments. And let's get going. If it goes before the council, I think on the 11th, let's not wait to look at everything. Let's just make the ones we have now sanctioned encampments. I have about 5 different camps that I've suggested or going to suggest that we can make them into safe sleeping zone. District 10, I'm looking in your district, Mr. Vice President, and District 1. So I think it's very important, and they can be run themselves. And this is what we've been talking about. So I really, truly hope that you will listen and take it up at council. And Councilman Perales and Mayhem and Cohen, thanks for all your suggestions. And we need these. The unhoused need to be safe. They don't need to be moved around. I just got a call today that South Hall had 2 outbreaks of COVID. So what do we do there? Anyway, thank you so much.
Thank you, Gail. Barbara? Go ahead, Barbara.
Thank you for the chance to speak to today's meeting. The City Council will soon be discussing a task force recommendation to study a plan to eliminate single-family zoning throughout San Jose. I only heard about this from an op-ed piece I saw in the Mercury News. Apparently, the task force was comprised of some council members, planning commissioners, and other political insiders appointed by council members. There was no public notice or outreach to inform residents that this group would be meeting to discuss the elimination of single-family zoning in San Jose. Very few residents knew a vote would be taken to approve a recommendation as extreme as this. And even now, very few of my neighbors know this proposal will come before the city council this summer or fall. It is incomprehensible to imagine that something as draconian as a citywide ban on single-family zoning could happen in San Jose by just 6 out of 11 votes by the mayor and city council. This is a policy change that effectively unwinds decades of planning and irrevocably changes the neighborhoods we've chosen to live in. For that reason, I am asking that any proposed change to eliminate single-family zoning anywhere in San Jose be placed on the ballot with clarity of titling so the residents of San Jose can vote to approve or reject this proposed change to abolish single-family zoning throughout San Jose. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Sandra? Or Sandra?
Yes, first, thank you to the city staff for their willingness to engage the public even after hours on housing and planning subjects. They play such a critical role in our government. However, they are no longer informing the public on opportunity housing. They are advocating for the proposal. The public is being misled by the omission of information or use of incomplete data. Staff, by their actions, are making policy and not informing policy. This causes people to distrust city staff and its management. Examples include, in Dwelling Podcast 2, only a proponent of this proposal is interviewed. That is biased. Minneapolis is mentioned as implementing this proposal, but the 2+ year long lawsuit that the city lost was not mentioned. This is an omission of information. The housing department presentations focus on affordable housing and imply that the proposal produces it. Only on direct questioning is market rate housing confirmed to be the product of this proposal. The now famous statement that San Jose is 94% single family housing is incorrect. That figure is based on the general plan, and it includes duplexes and higher density housing, private roads, etc. It does not reflect what is installed or zoned. The actual housing mix is different. It is deceitful when city staff states that the proposal does not eliminate single-family zoning. That is exactly what this proposal does. Furthermore, staff in their podcasts and presentations do not mention or discuss issues with the proposal, such as adverse impacts on city finances, VMT or soft and hardware infrastructure issues. City staff are advocating. This is not acceptable. The biased presentations, implied benefits, disingenuous comments are not highlighting not highlighting obstacles must stop and be corrected.
Thank you. Brenda?
Hi, I just want to thank Councilwoman Arenas and David Cohen and even Dave Davis for bringing up good questions about this, illegal dumping fine memorandum. So I just want to thank you guys for listening to the community and for ensuring that our voices were heard. It means a lot. It truly does. I would have rather seen this table than rewritten and made it more clear on what does illegal dumping mean. And obviously they spoke about corporations. Maybe they should have made this for corporations because it's very misleading and confusing. So I just feel that it was just narrated to pass as if it was a corporation issue. But if you look at the Spotlight News.
Brenda, I'm sorry for interrupting, but open forum is for items not on the agenda. So you're speaking to.
I'm just going to read something that I saw. I saw on an op-ed that throwing a mattress by the side of the freeway or a bag of trash could lead up to 10K. And what they said today, what some people said today was not true. So I just wanted to say that I want to thank them for speaking out for us, the community, And I would love to see more clarity and more discussion on an item that was spoken on today. Thank you.
Thank you. Lynn?
Yes, hi. I'd like to talk about opportunity housing. The Envision 2040 Task Force was given an assignment at the June 11th, 2019 City Council meeting. They were to consider the following proposal for opportunity housing and make recommendations. The proposal was to limit it to parcels proximate to transit-oriented urban villages or adjacent to other types of specific parcels. They were to develop a set of design guidelines that would maintain the current allowed heights and keep setbacks comparable to existing family homes, et cetera. They were to allow flexibility on the number of units allowed per parcel, et cetera. They were to specify that this would be sensitive to historic neighborhoods, and they were to validate that opportunity housing would be cost effective. Mr. Pandori, co-chair of the task force, tried to remind the group of the scope of their assignment before they voted on August 20, 2020 on this proposal, but he was rudely cut off. The task force voted and recommended that up to 4 units per parcel be allowed on all parcels with a residential land use designation, and that city staff proceed with all the other work that the task force was assigned to do. It's been 8 months since this happened. The task force doesn't have the authority to make the proposal that they did, and they don't have the authority to designate that staff do this other work. As a result, city staff is making up the opportunity housing proposal. They're advocating for it, and it's a continual moving target, and no one has done a cost-effective analysis. Council has done nothing to rein this in, and they need to send this issue back to the task force to have them do what they were asked to do. Residents are left with this mess and of having to put huge resources into opposing this moving target of a proposal advocated by staff. Council needs to act on this immediately.
Thank you. Brenda?
Hello. Good afternoon, committee members. Many residents like us are unaware the General Plan Task Force ventured beyond the scope of their original mission with citywide opportunity housing zoning changes proposed by Juan Estrada last year. This proposal could eliminate single-family home zoning citywide. The city should be open, honest, and transparent with residents with clearly communicated ramifications of this proposal. We have an elective representative form of government in San Jose with our city council and mayor. Why is the city of San Jose paid staff using taxpayer funds for a dedicated webpage and podcasts to actively promote opportunity housing before the city council vote to study opportunity housing? Pro-biased informational community meetings are promoted and featuring grant-funded advocate group presenters from Silicon Valley at Home, Green Belt Alliance, Law Foundation of Silicon Valley, San Jose Neighborhoods for All, and paid city staff from the Housing and Planning Department are participating in these meetings with few or no experienced or knowledgeable opposing viewpoints to offer residents. The San Jose Spotlight mentioned an opportunity housing ordinance that is in the works in a recent piece on the matter. And what about residents? Opportunity housing or elimination of single-family home zoning citywide is a matter that should be put on the ballot for voters to decide. It takes a citywide vote to redistrict. It should take a citywide vote to rezone. Thank you.
Thank you. Linda? Go ahead, Linda.
Hi, this is Linda Ruthruff. I'm the Conservation Chair for the California Native Plant Society, Santa Clara Valley Chapter. I'm also a longtime San Jose resident. Vice Mayor Jones, I'm in your district. I'm speaking against the San Jose Light Tower project. We can expect this to be extremely problematic for San Jose. Just a few of the problems. Every year, New York City recreates the Twin Towers on 9/11 by pointing lights into the skies. They found that birds are drawn in and captured by the light. They circle endlessly until many of them drop dead from exhaustion. They found that they have to keep turning the lights off to allow the birds to move on. San Jose is on the Pacific Flyway. Most birds migrate at night. So we can expect the project to kill a lot of birds. The structure would also be close to the airport. As birds are drawn into this 20-story lighted structure, we can expect some of them to fly across the path of incoming planes, potentially being sucked into the engines and causing a crash. The lights can also be a distraction to pilots. There are many negative health effects of this type of night lighting. It can also affect the plants in the riparian corridors of Los Gatos Creek and the Guadalupe River right next to the project, throwing the life cycle of the plants out of sync with the pollinators they need to complete their life cycle. Please don't use precious parkland for this destructive project. Thank you.
Thank you. Matthew?
Sorry, yes, this is Matthew Reed from a proudly grant-funded non-for-profit organization that advocates for housing solutions in San Jose. I was just listening and I was inspired to raise my hand. Opportunity housing is an open discussion right now in the city. There's a tremendous amount of neighborhood level discussion that is happening. We applaud city staff making themselves available to respond to a lot of the concerns that are being raised. A number of us have tried to do the same. We support this in concept, but we acknowledge that there's a lot of work left to do. I think what I was struck by in the comments is I think there's also a kind of a tremendous amount of misunderstanding and misinformation about both where you all are in the stage of the process, how we got here, and what's going to be happening going forward. We, Silicon Valley at Home, had a seat on the General Plan Task Force. And council brought this item to the task force to talk about, how it might work and go forward. And after 3 long meetings, the task force recommended that yes, the staff go forward and adjusted the direction to consider this citywide. This is going to be coming before you all. But many of the concerns that have been raised are actually what staff will be asking for direction from council to take on. It's hard in the absence of a concrete policy and a process, but that's the position that staff is in. And I just want to voice support for their effort to be available and sit through long and important meetings with community members around the city. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Robert?
Yes, hello. I am Bob Fontana. I live in District 10. I'm a resident of San Jose who, like others, is concerned about political advocacy, in particular for opportunity housing, and the political advocacy that the departments are engaged in with regard to residential zoning proposal. I don't know if any of you have listened to the Housing Department's podcast series called Dwellings, but if you haven't, I encourage you to do so. I think it will help you understand where my concerns are coming from. Listen to episode 2 for a full-blown promotion of opportunity housing, delivered by an interview with one of our city's leading advocates of the policy. In it, ill-defined terms like gentle density, climate, real estate, and emulating Minneapolis and Portland are used. Also, listen to episode 8 for an interview with a so-called expert who opens his interview lamenting what he called the ravages of single-family zoning, and closes the interview by endorsing a shared community public housing model that apparently exists in Vienna, where 20% of the units are state-owned. What you won't find in the Dwellings podcast series are voices of informed individuals who think banning R1 zoning is a bad idea. There are surely general plan task force members who voted against the opportunity housing recommendations that would gladly share their reason why they oppose it. They include real estate professionals, planning commissioners, and city council members. All I'm asking for today is for your help in directing staff to demonstrate professionalism, objectivity, and in particular balance in their presentation of information on this zoning issue. Thank you.
Thank you. And that was the last public speaker. So this meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone.